Teddy Roosevelt and William Howard Taft had a really interesting relationship. They were, I think frenemies is a contemporary word that the kids might use, but the reality is that's what they were. They were frenemies. They were not exactly friends. They weren't exactly enemies, sort of somewhere in between.
Well, what happened that I didn't realize until I started doing the research and found 400 letters between the two of them from the time they were in their early 30s. They had met when Taft was Solicitor General and Teddy Civil Service Commissioner, and they were both young reformers. They both knew something had to happen with the corruption of the age. From the Civil War to 1900, there was so much corruption, and they both were against it, so they became allies. They were very different. Of course. I mean, Teddy was this physical, manic, exercising character, and Taft was rather overweight, as we know. That's a nice way to put it. But also, they had different temperaments. I mean, Teddy said of Taft, I envy somebody with his personality. Everybody loved Taft. He said, they love him on first sight. It takes longer for them to love me. And Taft, of course, envied Teddy's rhetorical ability, his fighting spirit, and his love of the game. But then, of course, what happens is he handpicks Taft to be his successor.
He basically runs the campaign.
Gives him all sorts of advice. Stop playing golf. Golf is a dude's game. It's not a working man's game. The only thing he didn't, I think, influence was the song for Taft, which was "Get on a raft with Taft." If you got on a raft with 340-pound Taft,
wouldn't go so well. Exactly. Might not have gone well.
But
so
he wins.
So Taft wins, and Roosevelt goes off to Africa, and he assumes, well, great, the legacy of the work I've done as president has been preserved. This guy and I are in sync, and we work together on everything. And then it turns out not so much.
Yeah, and the way Teddy thought about it, he thought that Taft had betrayed his legacy and had become too cozy with the old guard in the Congress. And the progressives were feeling that they had been abandoned, so they go after Teddy. They want him to be a champion again. They want him to run against his old friend. And at first he resists, but then I think he can't not be in the center of power. He loves it. I mean, Alice Roosevelt, his daughter, said of him that he so loved being in the center of action that he wanted to be the bride at the wedding and the corpse at the funeral and the baby at the baptism. So once that channel was open, and he really believed that he needed to carry he had gone further left by that point. He and Taft had been sort of at one when Taft was Secretary of War. Taft believed government had to solve some of these problems. He believed in workmen's compensation. He believed in antitrust. He believed in making better for the women and the people in the factories, but he wasn't willing to go as far as Teddy eventually went in 1912. And so they run against each other in a brutal campaign that's devastating for Taft emotionally.